Welcome, Hearties, to Hearties Hotline, your connection to Hope Valley. I am Cammie, the Hooked Hearty, and
Hey everybody, I'm Sarah. I'm the Hawk-Eyed Hearty, and we are here today to talk to you about season 11, episode 11, double 11,
Double 11.
Run to You.
I have one word for this episode.
Oh, only one? That's a short podcast.
With 4 exclamation points.
4. That is serious.
I mean, tell me that you didn't feel the same way.
There were lots of surprises.
That's putting it mildly.
Well, I'm mild.
Sure. Okay, but can I just say that the title of season 11, episode 4, Along Came a Spider. Very, very fitting now.
Had not looked back on titles, so yes, that is a good point.
Yeah. So where's your hat? We might as well just go there.
We might as well just go right into it, right?
Because...
All right. I've got it right here.
And I've got
dive into this
mystery.
Herbal
tea today.
Ooh, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to catching the real Casimir Shaw, right?
Yeah, so about
that. Oh my gosh. Did you see that coming?
So let me say I didn't see it coming before I found out, but I found out before I watched it because I didn't get a chance to watch it for a few days. We were on vacation and the stars just did not align, you could say, to watch it.
That's episode 1, Sarah. Move on.
I know, but I had to use it.
Add another one.
So I didn't have a chance to watch it right away, and I tried to stay off of social media because I knew there would be spoilers. And I just caught it on the tail end of something, and I was like, ah, just something about the real Casimir Shaw. And I was like, oh, well, like then it all fell into place.
I just want to clarify and confirm it wasn't me.
It was not you.
I would be do anything. I said nothing.
I would be very vocal if it had been you. I would be teasing you.
Wow.
But yeah, so I did find out in kind of indirectly kind of put all of those pieces together. So the first time I did watch it, I did have that knowledge. And so it was probably easier to pick up on all the little hints they were laying in this episode. But I don't, if I didn't know, if I was watching live, I mean, I think I would have known before they said it directly, but they did a really good job of weaving that in with like giving enough clues without making it obvious.
Yeah.
And when you look back on it, it makes perfect sense.
It does.
It's actually really amazing that there weren't people guessing this all over in fan groups and on podcasts and in everywhere. Like it is kind of amazing when you look at the show has always been about like empowering women and women can do anything and women being in roles that they weren't typically in that time period.
And now we really
it is kind of interesting that we haven't had a really big female villain
until now.
And so in so many ways it makes so much sense that they did that.
It does. So the first thing that tipped me off that there was more to it was our friend Nicole. She told me about an interview that she had seen with Aaron and Kevin, and then I went back and watched it, and Kevin said no one's figured it out yet, and I went, wait, what?
Right.
So,
Which means there was enough there to figure out.
yeah, so there was more, and we saw that Shaw was the one who had the gun. We had already seen that. And so I went, wait, hold on. But I never suspected it to be this. So anybody out there who was shipping, I don't think it's happening anymore, but if you're still shipping Jeanette and Lucas, you might want to stop.
Okay, another thing on that note, and I'm 100% this is just a total coincidence, but I thought it was hilarious. The actor who played Fake Shaw, his name is Hugo Steele. And I just cracked up when I saw that because the entire episode, all I was thinking about was Remington Steele and the whole concept of a woman using a man's name and saying that she worked for him and that like he's the brains behind it. You can take him seriously. And so I don't know if you watched that show back in the day, but
No, I didn't, but
and that was the whole premise was that really she was the brains behind the whole thing, and Remington Steele didn't even exist until she hired this guy to pretend to be him so that she could be taken seriously as a woman detective. Really, really funny that this guy's actual name was Steele.
and that was Pierce Brosnan, right?
Yeah, Pierce
Yeah.
Brosnan's show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That is an amazing coincidence.
I was thinking of Remington Steele and I even wrote that down in my notes before I got his name. And so I thought that was funny.
That is hilarious. Well, you weren't here when we covered that part of the episode, but I said that when Jacob first came to Hope Valley and told his reasons for being mad at Joseph, the only thing I could think of was an episode of Home Improvement with Tim Allen. So we're even.
Okay.
And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go back. The episode with Catherine, you'll find it. But here's where I got suspicious. When she started signaling, when Jeanette started signaling with Amir, I went, wait, no, there's something more to this.
Right.
She would not be
even
signaling.
Even if she was like being threatened,
she would hide.
She would be doing that. Yeah.
But may I say, Jeanette, I'm not just talking about the actor. Of course, we know that she's fantastic, but Jeanette, the character, is a very good actor because
yes,
she had everybody convinced. She had Randall Rockwell convinced that she was someone else. She had the Mounties convinced that everything was pointing a different direction. Just like Rosemary said, this source has been manipulating everything to cover up the truth of the shooting, which means your source might be the real shooter or connected to the shooter. And I was really glad that they added that in, or connected to the shooter, because that's what I was still thinking until the conversation in the saloon. I went, wait, what? So I did not have it figured out that she was Shaw until they started talking. And then I went, hold it. So I got...
So when Rosemary started talking to her, or after Fake Shaw came in?
When they started talking. When they started talking, because even when it's revealed that Jeanette was Randall's source, I still thought that Jeanette was more involved than we thought, but I did not think that she was Shaw.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't think of that at all. I thought, okay, she's more involved than we thought.
Right. it's hard to know when I would have caught on for
Yeah,
sure
because you knew about it.
because I knew, but I will say that there was just something about the tone of her voice when she brought up to Lucas earlier about him saying she could be anyone. If she had said, you always said I could do anything I wanted to do, or like any of the, like if it had been worded slightly differently, but the fact that she worded it as anyone, because that's just an odd way of phrasing that, telling someone they can be anyone, that makes it sound like a different name, a different person. Um, and so I will say, like at that moment, I was sure that like all the information I'd heard, because I still avoided, even after I saw that little tiny snippet, I still avoided
Yeah.
everything. So I was like fairly certain that was what was happening, but I wasn't 100%. And when like that line specifically, I was just like, oh my gosh, yeah. He caused, like inadvertently, he caused this. He gave her the notion that she could become a totally different person.
Yeah.
Obviously, she had it in her to do that, but
I have it right here. Well, and also apparently it was at a very impressionable time because she says, okay, I need to sink into my Jeanette voice now.
okay.
You remember what you told me when we hit bottom in New Orleans? We could be anyone we want to be. I believed you. So she's at the bottom. He's trying to keep her spirits up. I don't think that's what he intended to
Oh no,
say,
I get that. I'm just, I
but
bet he will struggle a touch with guilt on that one.
yeah. Well, and that was something else that kept pricking at my brain, that she keeps on saying he wants to still do business. Turn a blind eye. Give him what he wants and all of this will go away. I'm just going, the Mounties are on their way. All of this is going to be over with. Why are you still scared of this guy? Why are you still pushing Lucas to do what he wants? It's because it was what she wanted.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then, what Lucas says, he just takes, and can I just say, emotionally, this is a really hard spot for Lucas to be in.
Right.
It's been a long time since he and Elizabeth broke up, but they were engaged. They should have been married by now in his timetable. They should have been married by now. And here comes this old flame that he said she wasn't just beautiful, she existed on a higher plane. And she is throwing herself at him. And I mean, when he said, "Why did you come back?" We all have our weaknesses, Shelly. I was like, oh man, big reveal.
Yeah.
Obviously she was still in love with him, but
Oh, she
emotionally,
would, especially after he sent her away, she had to know that she would be in the clear if she just left.
she would have been fine. She would have been
And
free,
this
but
was a risk. This was a risk, and it was her downfall.
yeah. But for him to have this beautiful woman that he had been romantically attached to come back into his life at a very sore point when he should have been married, but he's not. And not only that, he's being a really great guy about it, but it can't be easy seeing your former fiance with the guy who was previously your competition and in the end beat you out. It's
Yeah.
that cannot be easy. And for him to just take her hands off and say, what I want is to be a good man, an honest man. I'm not the person you used to know. I'm just like, hats off to you, my friend.
Yeah.
You are quite a guy.
Well, and what I love is that it really did balance all of those arguments that have been happening over the years about his
Mm.
character, because it really did kind of prove that yes, he was shady. Yes, he was not as honest in the past.
He had a past that was sketchy.
He did have a sketchy past, and it just, I think, proved how much he's learned, how far he's come, how much his character has grown. And when you think about everything he said to Elizabeth about his childhood and how much he wanted to belong somewhere and with
Mm-hmm.
people, have a family, like that really kind of explains how he could have fallen into those hard times with Jeanette.
Yeah.
And then so I felt just like so amazed that she would want to be with him if he looked at her as on this higher plane, and then she has interest in him. Like, you would do anything to feel like you can, like, you aren't going to lose that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I feel really bad for him. And then on top of all of that, he goes in first into the saloon.
So I loved that because it acknowledged that he had that connection to Jeanette. He was
Mhm.
the only one that was going to talk any sense into her.
Yeah.
It made sense for him to be the one to obviously go in, and while Nathan's the one that sneaks in,
Mhm.
um, and Bill. Um,
Because can you imagine Nathan or Bill trying to talk her down? No way.
nothing would have come from that. And like you've got multiple criminals in here at the same time with multiple guns, so, and multiple hostages. But what I like about, so there's that scene obviously where Bill looks through the window and reports back what he has seen. And I really liked how like different they both reacted, because they both reacted
They did.
to
I
that
watched
to
both
that
of them. I
knowledge. Oh
rewound
yeah.
it.
Yeah, we were, of
Yeah.
course we did.
Yeah, of course we did. We rewound it to watch both of them.
You have to. Doesn't matter if they're this far apart on the screen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you have to have attention to each one. But there was that reaction, and that's what actually, I mean, as much as this episode was the episode about Elizabeth and Nathan, it really, Chris ultimately probably had better acting in most of these scenes because he had to be so nuanced
Yeah.
with, obviously, he cares deeply for Elizabeth, will always, does not want anything to happen to her, also feels responsible for this situation,
Yeah.
but also in some way still does care for Jeanette as well.
Well, obviously, because number one, he sent her away instead of just arresting her, which is probably, legally and politically, that's what he should have done. He should
Right.
have just arrested her. And then when Bill tries to point the gun at Jeanette, he steps in. Bill, no. And he's standing right between
Yeah.
them, and you can hear his heavy breathing. He's scared. He's
Yeah.
scared, which that makes it kind of sad that there was no one to comfort him. It didn't show Lucas with anybody, which was kind of sad. But
Right.
huh?
But I mean, that's where because I mean, I kind of went back and forth on that, like, oh, somebody should be like helping him, or he should be touching base with others. Like, he didn't, he stepped back. He didn't
He stepped
check
back.
on
He
Elizabeth.
showed.
He didn't like push his way in somewhere that, he knew that she was okay. He knew that they were comforting each other. Like, he seems super okay with
Yeah,
everything.
he does. I felt bad that there was nobody sitting with him, not even romantically. That nobody was
Oh, of
with him.
course.
I was
No,
like,
I get
yeah,
that.
don't leave him by himself to drown his sorrows in scotch or whiskey.
But I also feel like it showed that he is stronger, and he's getting through this, and he wasn't breaking down. He was upset, but he wasn't not okay.
Yeah,
He
but
was
I mean,
getting through it.
he was scared. I mean, she had the
Oh
gun
yeah, in the
right
moment.
at him. The gun was pushing. Will watch this with me. He said, that gun has one shot, maybe two. And if it's not right up on him, then it's not going to do anything. It'll be like a pebble. And I said, okay. And then she stuck the gun right at him. I'm like, so there,
Yeah. Well, he walked into it. It's his fault.
Yes, but the danger was very real.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, yes, that contrast of his quiet frustration with Nathan's more outgoing frustration with the situation,
wants to charge right in. Yeah.
coupled with Bill's steady hand.
Yeah. I mean, I think it showed both sides of the coin with Nathan, because we've seen him be the calming force. We still see it happen later on.
He still was extremely calm.
Yeah, he was still extremely calm, but he's the man in Elizabeth's life now, and they haven't solidified anything. And so I think that was a very big driving force. I mean, if you will, kind of like what was in my story, like, no, you're not going to take her away from me now. So
yeah.
Okay, about that whole scene, I have reasoning, but I still, the scene was weird for me when everybody comes in to the saloon. And so the good guys have the guns on the bad guys. And then
it switches.
And then it just switches. And
yeah.
Here was my big question. It switched because Jeanette put the gun on Lucas, saying, if you want your governor in one piece. And then Bill takes the gun away from Shaw. And so then they do this switcheroo kind of thing. But Nathan had his gun on both of them from far away. Why didn't he shoot?
Because it's Hallmark. You don't really shoot people on Hallmark.
They still,
I mean,
I'm not saying shoot to kill. I'm not saying shoot to kill, but if somebody had shot at Nathan to distract him, and then that would have distracted everybody else, that would have made more sense. But Nathan has the gun on him the entire time that the switch is happening, and then he's taking Elizabeth up the stairs. It just,
I think it just, I mean, for me it was really that
you're the mystery buff. You give it to me. What do you?
For me, it was really just that he got concerned about Elizabeth and got distracted.
Yeah, I mean, that's me too. But I mean, when
and why he wouldn't have shot, because in this situation the stakes are too high.
Well, not necessarily though, because Bill had the gun on Shaw. Jeanette was very far away from everybody, and if Nathan had shot Jeanette's arm, everybody would have been fine. That's why I thought that somebody should have shot towards Nathan to distract him, and then by the time he gets his bearings back and he can pick up his gun again, then he's too late.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, that would have worked perfectly fine. I thought I thought it looked a little odd, but I didn't really break it down like you did.
Oh, well, sorry, I broke it down.
Yeah, you broke it down. It looks okay. It's one of those things where, like, if you're in that situation, you know, anybody might not think perfectly clearly in the moment.
Very true. Very true. But the guy's a Mountie. He's trained to, you know.
Yes, but the
But
stakes
he's
are
not
higher when
thinking
you're someone you
clearly
love.
because it's Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Keep the hat on because we're going to go to Lee and Rosemary next. And since Rosemary is highly involved, and when she's not involved, she's upset that she's not involved.
What's that?
Okay. I made a list of Rosemary's. Let me see if I can get it to show up. I can't. There it is. I made a list of Rosemary's frustrations in this episode. It's
That's
a
a
lot
long
longer than my
page.
other list, and we'll get to that in a second. Yes, it is. Okay, so
Alrighty.
question of the day. Question of the day.
Okay.
What is, and you have to be specific, what do you think was Rosemary's biggest frustration in this episode?
The whole episode?
Yes, and you have to be specific. I'll narrow it down further.
Looking at my list here, I don't have a list of her frustrations, but I have notes.
So let's take out being held hostage, because that's on a plane by itself, you know, that's a plane above everything else. That's dangerous. That's not frustrating. So I have that in here as her frustrations, but
her biggest frustration would be Bill disappearing on her. Sassafras.
Sassafras.
That was her biggest reaction, anyway, to being frustrated.
Yeah.
That was the best reaction. Yes.
Oh,
loved that.
Amazing scene. Amazing scene right there. Okay, so here is my list of Rosemary's frustrations in this episode alone.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. There's a secret being kept, and she doesn't know what it is. Very frustrating. Nathan and Elizabeth's trepidatious pace. Very frustrating. This one only lasts for a few seconds, but Elizabeth can't walk home with her because something came up. Now, once she figured out what it was fine. But for those few seconds, she was very frustrated that Elizabeth couldn't walk home with her. And then Bill won't talk to her, and they're supposed to be a team. Bill asks for blind trust, which is very frustrating to somebody who wants to know everything. You know, when you say stop asking questions, you're just going to have to trust me. That is so frustrating for me, and Rosemary's way above me on that kind of plane.
She's particular.
She's very particular. So Bill asking for blind trust, and then Bill disappearing on her.
Is that your whole list?
No.
I was like, wait, I've got more.
No. I've got at least, I won't stop to count, but I think about 10 more.
Yeah, keep going. Oh, gosh.
No. The list is very long. Elizabeth and Nathan didn't go for their ride. That was very frustrating to her. Yes, she was very frustrated for Elizabeth.
Back to trepidation.
What?
Back to trepidation.
A trepidatious pace. So everything was at a trepidatious pace until it wasn't. That seems to be kind of what happened throughout this entire episode. Everything was inching along until it wasn't. And then we took leaps and bounds. Okay. And then once again, this one lasted only for a moment, but she didn't have Randall's source. And so Randall got all of this information and all of these scoops from a source and she didn't have a source. And then on top of that, here's another one. Randall can't tell her the source. So that gets her wound up. The fact, this was a small one, but I could tell that it bugged her, that Randall went to print without knowing the identity of the source. I mean,
It was like a professional frustration.
That's a very big professional frustration, and just the exasperation. You went to print without knowing your source's identity? Yeah, she was flabbergasted and a little horrified instead of surprised and delighted. That's going to be the opposite for us. It's flabbergasted and horrified. And okay, this was a huge frustration that Randall put on the guise of wanting to be partners, but he just wanted to expose his source in the Valley Voice. He wanted to protect his family.
I mean, yes and no. I feel like while he had that ulterior motive, he also was doing the only thing he could think of to get out of it.
Yes.
And he knew and trusted that Rosemary, because he does actually admire her work, knows that she actually can have hope of getting this accomplished.
Right. But then he doesn't want to expose himself in his paper. So he's going to go over and not even care that Rosemary has a family to protect, including the mayor of the town and their child and a baby. Hello. But
I don't know. I do like him better after this episode, though.
I like him better.
There's some negative pieces, but he also, in some way, in many ways, redeemed himself as well.
Yes. Well, and when you think about it, Randall saved their lives because he was driving back early, calling it a day, and he ran into Lucas, Bill, and Nathan. So in a way, Randall's the one who saved their life. He started the process of saving their lives because it was a process.
Yeah. And they were going to wait a while. They were going to still wait a while there.
Yeah.
Before going back. So
yeah.
Although if many people would have just spoken up sooner, it wouldn't have come to that.
Indeed. Okay, but here's the other thing is, so Randall comes to her, wants to do this big expose, and then he says, I'm done for the day. He just wants to stop digging. After we've gone this far, why not go a little further? But he said, I'm done for the day. We'll start fresh tomorrow. Okay. So that would have been very frustrating, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Knowing that the shooter is still out there, even if she hadn't figured it out, that has been a growing frustration for her because Lucas is her friend. And not only does she care about this as a reporter, but she cares about him as a person, not just as a title or a head. So the fact that the shooter is still out there is very frustrating. And then Lucas not being there when she goes to try to tell him. And then, there's that tiny little thing about being held hostage. I think that kind of frustrated her.
She didn't appreciate that.
No, she did not appreciate that. Okay, can I just backtrack a little bit? Because with all of the women empowerment motifs that are happening, it would have been so easy to make Elizabeth and Rosemary tough. Because, I mean, with Elizabeth, she acted a little tougher when it was Amos Dixon. I'm not going anywhere with you. But here, both of them were legitimately frightened. And I really appreciated the look on Pascal's face and Jeanette saying, Mr. Shaw, there's no need for that. You're frightening, Mrs. Coulter.
Mhm.
I mean, she looked very scared, and
Mhm.
it had been a very long time, if ever, that she had been held at gunpoint. So you could tell
Well,
she
and
wasn't
that,
used to
yeah.
it.
But I will also say that she didn't, even if she was extremely frightened, she very much kept her cool throughout that entire situation.
I'm just
More
talking
so
about
than
at the beginning.
yeah, but more so than I expected her to.
Yeah,
And
yeah, she held it together big time. But I
that
appreciated the
was,
genuine fright.
yeah. And that was the exact moment that she figured it out too.
Mm-hmm.
Was
Yep.
that moment when Jeanette told him not to frighten her, because that's just the most obvious. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, why on earth would he listen to you
Yeah.
if he is Casimir Shaw?
Okay, two more. So Elizabeth being held hostage because not only is her family put in danger, but now little Jack is put in danger, which is basically her nephew.
Yeah.
So that that was another frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And then the frustration of the pistol switcheroo, if you will. Like, first they're safe, then they're not. So I bet that was very frustrating. And I'll save the last one for later. Just remind me to say.
Okay. Well, I feel like I have several still.
Oh, you
So
have
I don't
seven
want to
more.
give yours, I don't want to give yours away if you're keeping something.
Okay, so if it involves, so I said some involving Elizabeth and Nathan towards the beginning of the episode. If it involves something about them towards the end of the episode, save it.
Oh,
If
no, I don't have anything, but I did think what I would add to that list is at the beginning when she's talking about how Lucas will not arrange a second interview with her, a follow-up interview. She was very frustrated with Gowan to the point
Mhm.
where they said, speak of the devil when he walked through.
Right.
And I loved how they both in unison did their little humph as he went through. Um, and then also I would say in that conversation with Jeanette, when she found out that he had regained his memory and had not told her.
Oh, yes. Well, now that we've covered all of Rosemary's frustrations, let's go to her counterpart, shall we? Everyone's favorite mayor. He was so adorable in this episode. He was
We always love Gavin.
I love Gavin, but he was just, if you'll pardon me using Lee's words, he was so cute. You know. But so, like you mentioned, the simultaneous and then the simultaneous
Oh,
oh. Those two make such a fantastic team. You'd think that they'd been doing it for years and they'd done multiple projects or something. Imagine that.
yeah. Huh. They should do a movie
Shocking.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, they should. They should really do a movie together. That would be a really good investment for Hallmark. Oh wait. But when number one, when he is talking to Elizabeth, he makes sure that he says hi. It's not just Rosemary saying hi for the both of them. I just thought it was so sweet how he made sure that he said hi to Elizabeth, and she said hi, Lee, and then the oh, I can't even do it with a straight face. And then like they need exercise. Of course they do. They're horses.
Who says?
And then, of course, Rosemary goes off on one of her mini speeches. One neglects equine exercise at one's peril. And Lee, he's been married to the woman for 8 years, so he knows exactly what to say when she goes off on that kind of a thing. And so he just says, one does. So, And then when Elizabeth goes away and he says, so cute, that was precious, because Lee and Rosemary got married before Elizabeth and Jack. And so Lee didn't see everything, but he was pretty dang close. He saw all of it. And he definitely was there for all of it with Lucas. And so for him to just quietly show his support and, indulge Elizabeth in her white lies and her justifications.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want to say he was against Nathan by any means, but he kind of was Team Lucas, so to speak, in terms of he had been more aware of the connection that he had with Lucas in the beginning.
Yes.
And Rosemary had been very aware of the connection with Nathan, and then they became aware that there was more connections going on than they were originally aware with. And so there was that initial piece where you were like, oh, okay, well, Lucas is, more aware of, or Lee is more aware of Lucas.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Because there's that scene in, I believe, season 7, when Rosemary and Lee and Elizabeth are walking home together, and Lee brings it up. He said, you seem to be spending a lot of time with Nathan. Rosemary brings up Nathan, and Lee says, I was going to say Lucas. And, Elizabeth escapes. Rosemary won't let her. And she got very quiet and very serious and very, very Abigail-like, if you will, when she said, your heart is open again, isn't it? But it's pulling you in 2 different directions. And Elizabeth just gives this very subtle nod. And so, yes, Lee had been more aware of the attention to Lucas, or the interactions with Lucas. And so for him to be so close to Lucas, because Nathan and Lee know each other, but I would say that Lucas and Lee are better friends. And for him to be totally okay with this, just supporting her and thinking that they're so cute, it's sweet.
I think that's really nice. And I think, not that I expect, I almost don't want Lee and Nathan to become good friends, because I don't think they should be very friendly and being able to do things together, but it shouldn't be that you just you shouldn't naturally have to become best friends with your spouse's best friend's significant other. It doesn't work like that usually. And it's great that it was almost odd that Lee was asked to be best man for Lucas when he was Jack's.
Oh, I know.
So, I wouldn't necessarily expect or want to see that extreme connection immediately then happen with Nathan.
That happened in Downton Abbey, though, actually.
Interesting.
Yes. One of the, so there are 3 sisters. One of them dies in childbirth. She was the youngest sister, and her husband is left a widower with this child. And when the oldest sister finally gets married to the guy that everyone wants her to get married to, and the one that she loves, they finally have worked it all out. He's their best man. And then he, later on down the line, after Mary's first husband has passed away, and he and Mary's second significant other become friends because of their interest in cars. They have a mutual interest in cars. And his character's name is Tom. Tom is the one who kind of forces the 2 of them together and then leaves. He's like, you got this. And then he walks out the door and he makes the 2 of them talk. And then he is asked to be their best man. And he even says it when he's in the limousine with the groom. He says, I've been the best man at both of her weddings. I hadn't thought about it. And the second husband is so sweet, and he says, there's no one else I'd rather have. And so, you know, that's Lee. There, who else would you rather have as your best man? I just
Oh, no,
I
he's
just
a great
don't
one.
know. I mean, do you think that he's going to be, we probably shouldn't talk about this yet, but do you think he's going to be best man at Mike's wedding? I saw him in the
Um,
lawn, but I
the
didn't know if he
pictures,
was
it looked like
first.
he was not first. So
Yeah, I
no,
can't remember if he's first or
I'll
not.
I'll go into that in a few minutes.
Well, then the other part of Lee is wanting to include Rosemary in everything, even though it was dangerous. Just, I should tell Rosemary. Did you tell Rosemary? And it
Yeah,
it was it was very, very sweet. It was just the kind of thing a wife loves to hear that her husband did.
right. No, I especially the part where he was like, and you didn't tell Rosemary, and it's like, as mayor, he should have been like, and you didn't tell me.
Right. Yeah. He didn't say anything about that. So with that, this is very, very sweet, very good, and also a little sad. I was a little sad that it was only Mike and Lee who were celebrating together. I
Yes.
I know why. I know why. It's because, you know, Mike just came and
He just came to
ran
work.
in and told
Yeah.
the first person he wanted to, which was Lee. And the two, and he immediately broke out the champagne, which, like I said, it's beautiful that Lee was the first to know and he broke out the champagne, no questions asked. It's
On the clock, even.
on the clock. I know. It's sad that it wasn't more of a party and they couldn't gather more people
Yeah.
or say to the whole saloon, hey guys, guess what, you know. But Mike's celebration also got cut short, but this part I love. The men of Hope Valley are gathering and rallying. You know,
Yes.
it's really amazing to watch them do that. We saw Henry do it first, saying goodbye to Edwin.
I
I'm
loved that.
glad he quit. You know, that's what Lucas said.
Yeah. No,
So
that was a great scene because after everything Henry's been through and being able to like, you can just see like he just has a sixth sense about people and their like again, you know, we talked about we suspected Edwin of maybe being involved in things. Doesn't appear that he
somehow,
was, but he definitely wasn't necessarily looking out for the same interests that Lucas was,
right.
and had his own agenda, had his own way of thinking about things, and Gowan could tell that. He's got that
He's got a
radar.
sixth sense. He's got a sixth sense. And, you know, it was really interesting that with Edwin gone, Lucas is saying he was always too focused on the next election.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he's saying when he had been so determined to do the resort, now he's saying, I wish I'd canceled it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that happens when Evil Eddie, we want to call him that. But with Edwin out of the picture, and you know, even he realized it. He said, Lucas stopped listening to me a long time ago, and you made sure of that. I went, oh, yeah, he knows. He knows. And
Well, and we knew that was why he didn't want him to bring Gowan on.
yeah, because then he would stop listening to him. I will give him the credit that he did not get angry. You could tell that he knew it and he was a little miffed about it, but he didn't get angry and he tried to part his friends. However,
He
it
strikes me as
also,
the kind of guy that tried to part his friends with Bixby Balfour. He doesn't want to burn bridges.
Yeah,
He
see,
wants...
that's the thing. That's the thing. He didn't want to burn a bridge just in case, but he was off. He was taking a new position.
He was taking an interview for a new position. He didn't have it yet.
Oh, yes, you are correct.
So yeah, you don't want to burn a bridge.
Yeah, I thought it was just as telling that Henry wouldn't shake his hand.
That was my favorite part of that scene. That was, in fact, because my kids are a little bit behind. They haven't watched all of these episodes yet. And I was like, you have to catch up. You have to catch up. And they were like, okay, we will. And I said, there is a scene where someone tries to shake hands with Gowan and he just stares them down. And I said, oh, it was so good. And they're like, ooh.
And he tips his hat. There was a lot of hat tipping in this episode.
Ooh, yeah, on many different levels. Yeah.
Yes. Different feelings behind them. So, but yeah, tipped his hat, said so long, as in sayonara, get out of here. And this I thought was really interesting because Edwin and Henry have been working with Lucas the most. So if anybody had earned the right politically to call him by his first name, it would be the two of them. But Henry calls him on it. He said, as if to say, you don't work for him anymore. You lose this privilege. Till the voters say otherwise, you can still call him governor. Like, don't you dare try to undermine his position or make less of him than what he is.
I think that was twofold because 100%, yes, it had that meaning, but it also was, Edwin was implying that that was career suicide and he's not going to be the governor for much longer. And he was like, well, until he isn't, we're still in charge.
Yeah. And you not go bye-bye.
Yeah. Happy to not have you on this train. Yeah, again, no major harsh feelings towards the character, but just didn't seem like he was on Lucas's true side. He's playing the political field.
He made sure that any situation was mutually beneficial. Yeah. So, I mean, he was probably good for Lucas in the beginning just because he knew what he was doing in the political realm and Lucas didn't. So he made a good advisor for the first few months, and then it all became about the next election, doing money instead of keeping true to your morals and being a good and honest politician. He said, it's fine. So yeah. Edwin let a little too much hot air get in him. And then he released it too quickly. He let all that hot air come out and said a few things that he shouldn't have. And yeah, it wasn't going to work. And then Henry strikes again, but in the best way, because you see him and Nathan talking. Obviously, they are speaking about this current situation and they are keeping each other up to date. And then the moment that Henry sees Jeanette walking into the saloon, he goes and gets Bill and he goes and gets Nathan immediately. Will you come with me? And takes them both just to see. And then when they find out about the trouble, Bill comes and grabs Lee and Mike, and they immediately stop what they're doing and go forward and go and help the town. Mike says he'll go to Buxton to call in reinforcements. Henry immediately says, take my car.
Yeah. They work together. They care about each other. There's no I, there's we.
There's all we. So even though it was sad that Mike and May's engagement didn't get more of an announcement, to see them put that aside very easily for the sake of the safety of the town. It's a beautiful scene. It's a beautiful sight.
Yeah. And real quick before we move away from Henry too,
Yeah.
he was sitting in town reading Don Quixote. That just was an interesting choice, I thought.
I've Don Juan Quixote. Oh, wait, that's the musical.
I found it a really nice, refreshing just moment to be like, Henry's, he's changing a little bit. He's
He's
becoming a
reading up
little
on
bit,
his culture.
yeah, he's kind of being a little bit more refined again, and just sitting in town doing it too. Just like, I feel like that just shows how much he's
He
grown
doesn't
too,
sit
to
at
be like,
home and do it. Yeah.
he's not sitting at home. He'd rather be out and about, see people, be in the sunshine.
He's also not holed up in Lucas's office.
But also not being afraid of what people would think of him reading.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
there's
many layers to that.
Many layers to a 3-second scene. I do wonder if that was a choice. If that was just what they had, or if that was a script / prop / character choice. Is that going to come into play later on? But I guess we'll just have to see. But let's talk about that announcement.
Okay. We don't need mysteries anymore.
No, mystery's done.
Mystery's done. Hopefully done. And I don't need the hat next week, but we'll see.
Yeah. Now we go to this.
Even though I love the hat.
Now we go to this part of the episode.
Okay.
Had a lot of it. We had 2 couples moving in very big leaps and bounds, didn't we?
That we did.
Okay. First impression of Mike's proposal to May.
It was perfect for them. It was beautiful. There were flowers around. Was in a lovely setting. Was that where she had done the dinner?
Maybe.
For him, wasn't it outdoors?
Maybe they were shooting. It's possible that they were shooting from the place where they had the dinner, shooting out. I can't remember, but just that framing of the flowered arch and the camera going through it. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. No, I mean, it started out, obviously a little bit rocky, but that's kind of Hickam. And he, at first, I was like, why are you bringing up her brother? But it made perfect sense when he finished explaining himself, because we've talked about this with other storylines before. Sometimes there's that impression of like, you don't want to feel like somebody's proposing or moving forward with the relationship simply because of circumstances. But at the same time, like, that's life. Like, stuff happens in your life that makes you realize how you feel. You're not doing it because of that. Yes, you might not have done it at that moment if the outside circumstances were different, but it doesn't mean that it's forcing you to do it. It's just, it's making you realize your feelings.
Right.
And I think he described it in a good way of like, it, because of this feels right.
Yes, he did.
And so I was really happy that that's the way it was phrased, and it felt very true and real. And then he's like, are you sure? Like, really making sure that he's not, pressuring her into anything or making her feel uncomfortable with it. But also, so my favorite part was the little peek. Like, you haven't said anything.
I have no idea if we ever get a chance to talk to Ben. I need to know, how did you do that? Because it literally looked like one eye open and then the other. That skill is beyond me.
It was perfect for them. It was just perfect for them. I loved it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. So, like, do you think at first it seemed like maybe she was suspicious he was going to propose when he said he
Oh,
had a
completely.
question, but then he threw her off by bringing up her brother and coming to Hope Valley, so that but then she still seemed genuinely shocked when he got down on one knee. It was like this great back and forth of emotions for her.
So Will and I talked about this very thing, and it's more meaningful because the day that we're recording this is the day after our anniversary. So marriage proposals are very, very keen with us right now. But so number one, this was one quick move that Will approved of. He said, this is a good way for them to rush the romance a little bit. They wrote this part very well. I said, thanks.
Yeah.
But the big thing is, that's exactly what he did to me when he proposed.
Okay.
Threw me off. We went out to dinner. I took him out to dinner for his birthday, actually. And so I wasn't expecting anything because
Because you planned it.
I had planned it. It was his birthday. And then he pulled out, at one point, he pulled out his class ring box. It was old, and we had talked about me wearing his class ring on a chain just to be cute. The 50s, the 1950s symbol of going steady. We just thought it would be fun. And so he said, he held up this old, dirty, and not very good looking ring box. And at first I went, and then he said, I brought you my class ring. And my shoulders kind of fell. I covered it, I covered it. And I said, oh, that's really nice, honey. And then I felt on my neck and went, oh shoot, I'm not wearing the right kind of necklace for this. And then he says, okay, I'm gonna do this. And he got down on one knee. Now he had fake proposed before. He did it at Halloween with a spider ring. So he was faking.
Thinking he was just being cute with the class ring.
I thought he was just being cute with the class ring. And I said, oh, honey, don't do this. Not here. Not now. No, get up. And he opens it and he says, will you marry me? And it was this ring. And I went, that's not your class ring.
Like, wait, is this a joke or not? Yeah.
So that was exactly what he had done to me. So he really approved of the keeping the woman guessing.
Yeah. That's fair.
But I thought it was so funny how Mike said, it's the perfect place to ask you something. And then ask me what? Then what would you think if we brought your brother here instead of going to Cape Fulton? Okay,
Oh,
sure.
Yeah.
And then great, because I have a follow-up question. Us knowing what the follow-up question is, the fact that he called it a follow-up question really threw her off. And then just so it was
so sweet.
It was so beautiful when he said, May, I love you more than anything. I know this is sudden, but with Bo being here, I don't know, the time just feels right. Then will you? He can't even look at me.
Yeah, I can't even say
it. Will you marry me? And then opening one eye at a time. And then her, yes, that you sure? He just wants to make sure that this is something that she really does want. And then, yes, and then kiss. I don't have a ring. I don't care. It's so sweet. And that kind of reminds me of the movie The Count of Monte Cristo, when she takes the string off of her shawl. She takes one of the tiny little tassels and she wraps it around her finger because he said, I can't marry you yet because I can't afford the ring. And she said, I don't need a ring. This will be my ring. And she kept it even when she thought that he was dead. She kept it on her finger all those years. It was It was, so yeah, a lot of things came to mind during that scene, a lot of beautiful commonalities and callbacks. It just, oh, it was so perfect. It was so perfect. And I think all doubts have been crushed that
On whose wedding it's going to
on
be.
whose wedding it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fairly certain.
This is going to take us into our big discussion for
Okay.
the episode.
There's more. Okay.
More happened? What? Something big? We already covered the kidnapping, and so what else could there be? So, if Nathan and Elizabeth were to just run off and elope in the last episode of the season, right after they kiss for the first time, I think that would be cheating the two of them out of a lot of steps that they still need to take. And I don't know about you, but I don't want this relationship to all happen off screen. I want to watch it happen. I want to watch it unfold.
I mean, I think you're gonna get, for devil's advocate, if they did elope in the next episode, you'd still have all of those firsts. They'd just be after they were married. You'd still have the same types of situations come up, but it would be different. So I mean, I still think you could, as long as they didn't chime jump, then I'd be fine with either. But because then you'd really truly miss everything.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's unlikely that that's the case. I still think it's potentially likely they will elope whenever they marry, but
you would
because it's gotta be different.
Okay, so the church doesn't get burnt in this wedding.
Okay, that's a good difference we could have. No fires.
No fire.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe not elope, but just be a very small, intimate ceremony where they don't invite the whole town and have a big plan, and they do it quicker than they were planning for some reason. But
you go ahead and have that. That's fine. I love the build up, and that.
I know, and I love that too, but I just definitely want to find a way for it to be different. So
yeah.
I don't know that I would want to get married in a building that is named after my fiance's.
Now, that is completely true. That is completely true. That would be hard to get married in the same building that's named after your husband. Yes. Now, you could argue that it's only when it's the school that it's named after, but the church
but it just seems odd.
Now,
for both of them.
What about a beautiful outdoor ceremony?
Yes, but I can't tell if Mike and Mace is indoors or outdoors.
So I think that they're doing a big walk, but from what I could see in the preview is it looked like it was indoors.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. In a way, yes, it would be weird for them to get married in the school because it's named after Jack, but it also might be a very sweet healing moment.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know exactly, but
but that's a really good point. Did anybody get married outdoors yet?
No, nobody's gotten married outdoors because
they just brought all the stuff inside for Jesse
and Clara's wedding. It was all brought inside because it started to rain. They were supposed to get married outdoors, but no, I don't think anybody's gotten married outdoors.
I mean, that would definitely set it apart.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it could be very healing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be very healing, and kind of they can feel a moment where it feels like they have Jack's approval, that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm just saying that it could go either way.
Yeah.
So I am very, very glad that the first kiss happened. I am 100%. What I hope is that they don't think that talking about their history and working through it is done because of Elizabeth's one speech.
No, but I think that was the piece, like I think you and I talked about this earlier in the week, is we both, wished that the last few episodes had been more Nathan pushing forward. And as Bill said, he's moving like molasses in January. But the reason I believe that he has been is because he was hurt, because they had this history and he really needed to let Elizabeth, move at her pace, which I loved, was exactly what he told Bill.
Yeah, that's what he said.
And so that made it make sense, in that way, because he was making a purposeful approach to do it differently this time because of the way it happened last time. And so that just really makes it more realistic for me. And I loved that once she said her piece, but so first of all, I don't think Elizabeth realized that's why he was being so slow until that comment he made in the stable about
my timing,
the timing, and him saying my timing, is that he was taking that personally, like he was taking the ownership of that decision. And I think it was that moment where she, realized I need to say something, and it needs to be substantial, because there were parts of that scene at the end that were very one-sided. It was a very one-sided scene. She was basically, like you said, giving a speech. And so at the time, like the very first time I watched it, I've seen it a few times since then. The first time I watched it, it was very like, you're like, why is she talking so much and he's not saying anything? But when kind of analyzing it to discuss here, everything she said had to be said for Nathan to feel comfortable. She, expressed her physical attraction to him and his looks, which was meaningful. She expressed her apologies for how things had gone before. She used words that she had used when turning him down.
Impeccable.
As a way of bringing it back around, of like, yes, I still feel all of those things and this. And
would you like me to read the speech?
I've got the whole speech right here too.
Oh, you do. You're right. But I'm so proud of you.
Even though I knew you would also. But also in the conversation in the jail when she turned him down, she did say, I love you already. And so the fact that this was not an I love you.
It was I'm in love with you.
Because she told him, I love you, I'm just not in love with you before. And so it wouldn't have held the same power if she had said, I love you now.
Well, and
she needed to say the in love with you part.
Well, and that's what he said. First, he said, Elizabeth, I'm in love with you. And then his voice got really gravelly. Elizabeth, I love you. And that's a scene that makes my heart pound every time I think about it. But, all I'm saying is I know we were going to save this for the end, but one of my hopes for next episode and season 12 is for them to legitimately talk about and work through some things, because I'm sorry for hurting you covers it, but it's a very blanket statement.
Yeah.
And
I think they've been very good about coming back to things.
And that's what I'm saying. That's
this
why
year especially.
That's why I'm not jumping at it right now saying they didn't say everything. I'm willing to slow myself down. Yeah. I'm willing to slow myself down as well. But that is one of my dearest hopes, is that they don't ignore everything that has happened, because a lot has happened. And they've both said things that were not their finest. And so I just hope that they don't just say, okay, we've kissed, we've declared our love, we're fine, now we're going our merry way. I really want to see them work through things and work together and not get angry, but just be truthful and honest. And, that I really want to see them continue that. And as much as I would love to say, yay, they've said it, now everything's fine, that's not real life,
No, but I think that was a big step.
it was a huge step. It was a huge step. And
it was what he needed to be able to unfreeze the molasses.
right. That's what so on my first watching through it, I said, why is he keeping that face?
Yeah.
But I realized because everything she was saying was getting him emotional. And he did the little smiles and, the way you look in suspenders.
You could hear him, you could hear the chuckle.
You could hear a chuckle even though his back was turned. But yeah, I would have liked to have him say more, particularly at the beginning when he's saying, if something had happened to you today. So if you remember when Jack saved Elizabeth from the Pinkerton, played by Steve Basic,
Mm-hmm.
He had her at gunpoint and Jack comes blazing in, knocks him out, kicks the gun away, and goes up and hugs her. I thought that them getting out of the hay wagon was, by the way, that was something that that neither one of us predicted.
That railing really gave way easily. That was lucky.
Really easily. But I was just so glad that they gave Nathan a heroic moment. I was just so glad that finally happened. But when they get down out of the hay, I wanted a big hug, a little desperate, some heavy breathing, calming down, and taking her by the shoulders. Are you okay? But instead it's like this, you sure you're okay? I'm like, dude, wait, hold on. And I would have done it a little bit more on the energy and just made it seem a little bit more pressing. And then at the end, I just wanted him to, and I probably wanted it because I wrote it in my story. I do that.
It could have something to do with it.
I wanted him to be a little bit more insistent. I don't mind her interrupting him and saying, please let me say this. But I wanted him to come to grips with it a little bit more, that he almost lost her again.
Yeah. No, there could have been like one more line interjected before she started.
Instead of, if something had happened to you, but it didn't, but it could have, blah, 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 and then keep going.
And then he could have just been like,
I would have, I
was beside myself, or
I was frightened. I almost lost you.
I don't want to feel that way again.
Yes.
So, just one little line would have probably.
I understand why they didn't close the distance, because he had to walk up. But, if that hadn't been a factor, then, taking her by the shoulders and saying, I almost lost you today, and that frightened me. But that was not the way it happened, because he kissed her.
Did that make you happy? Did it?
It made me very happy.
Okay. So what was your impression of the hands?
A lot of things go through my mind at that point. So, first of all, I'll tell you the funny one. My son was watching with me. He's 7. This one, whatever a kiss happens, even between Will and me, bleh, bleh, bleh. And so he came in. It was Monday morning, and I was laying in bed watching the show because no one was up yet. And so he comes in, he's the first one up, and he comes and gets in bed with me because Will's already at work. And I said, okay, now listen, there's gonna be a kissing scene, because I had already watched it. I was watching that part again because I wanted to hear more of the scene. I said, there's gonna be a kissing part, and you can't gag, you can't pretend to vomit. And he said, okay, mommy. And so we're watching, and then the fingers happen, and he says, he has big hands.
He's trying to focus on something else. Good for him.
So I thought it was perfect. I thought that movement was perfect because he was already taking a big step. You know, he was already coming forward and kissing her, which his heart was probably beating in his ears. he was probably, yeah, but at the same time, almost losing her probably made him incredibly bold, and he was not going to let another second go by.
Right.
But it was the perfect move to go deeper in the water, you know, and just a way to hold her close without going completely. And you're gonna die when I say this. It reminded me of the movie Anne of Avonlea.
Oh, okay.
Because in Anne of Avonlea, or Anne of Green Gables, the sequel, that's basically what happens. They have, at the end of it, they have a very brief kiss, but they're hugging after it, and he's resting his chin on her shoulder, and he kind of clasps his hands around her, and you just see this very big yes. You know, this finally. And so I always love, I don't like it when the first kiss is the huge one. I love it when they test the waters by kissing, pull back, gauge the reaction, and then go full force. And that's exactly what Nathan did. And that part, maybe I didn't agree with all of the words and everything, but just the kiss alone was beautiful. And, you know, he kissed her, he wrapped her up, he stepped back, he said, I never stopped loving you, which is almost
Yeah,
better
I mean,
than I love it. It's almost better than I love you at this point, you know, with
yeah.
their history and everything.
With the history, like there's the piece of it where it's a little uncomfortable because, like, oh, she was marrying somebody else. But
Yeah, but that doesn't erase feelings. I
it
mean,
doesn't erase feelings. And what I love is that that appeared to be what she was uncertain about was, do you still have the same feelings?
yeah. Yeah,
And
that
so
I mean,
it was a
just be,
reassurance, and it was also a way for him to say it in the same way that she said it to him.
yeah. And just because, you know, just because she was marrying Lucas doesn't mean that his feelings stopped. You know,
No.
he covered them.
Yeah.
He covered them and he buried them, but they never stopped.
Yeah.
And then I never stopped loving you, not for a single second. It was it was beautiful. And you know, we talked about him being shaken that Elizabeth was being taken upstairs, and that's one of the reasons he didn't fire, is he didn't want to hit her, and he was shaken that she was in that predicament. And then he kept his cool, he talked very calmly, and I did love their nonverbal communication, just the look, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, I'm with you. And then, like I said, I have been waiting for so long for Nathan to be the hero. You know, we're going to forget
That was
about
pretty heroic.
That was pretty heroic.
It's a small target to hit.
We're gonna forget about the fact that Bill is the one who actually ends up catching the guy who is playing Shaw. We're gonna forget about
That's
that.
okay. He saved the girl. That's what matters.
He saved the girl. But yes, that was a moment that I had been waiting for. It was close to how I felt when Jack came home from the Northern Territories and he rode fast to her. He got off the horse,
Yeah.
ran and spun her around. I was like, that's the way it should be. That's the way it is. So seeing that moment, him saving her like that, and then follow it up with a beautiful kiss that I haven't used this term in a very long time. It was chastely hot.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very chastely hot. Because there was nothing dirty about it.
Oh, no.
There was nothing lustful or, any of that is put into so many of those moments in TV today. A lot of moments get ruined by that kind of sentiment. But there was nothing that shouldn't be there. There was no feeling or sentiment that shouldn't have been expressed there. It was beautiful. It really was. And now I'm very curious to see where they go from there, because we know we're getting a wedding, so that's the follow-up for M&M. So now I want to see the follow-up to the kiss, and I want to see what they say, what happens. I watched a preview.
Oh, Cammy.
I did. I'm
I think I've only seen one, so I don't know if there's usually two or three.
Did you see
So
the
sure.
one? Did you see the one where Nathan is helping Jack ride?
Yes, when he dismounts.
Yeah, and when he says, "Can we let's gallop now?" He says, "Slow down there, cowboy."
Slow down.
And then Nathan goes over to Elizabeth and says, "I'd like to spend more time with him," which for for a mother to hear that from the man that she loves, and they are starting a romantic relationship, for him to say, "I want to spend more time with him," because that's going to be a huge priority besides her own happiness, is this man going to be a good father figure for my son, which we know that, and she knows that, but
seeing it is
seeing
important.
seeing is believing, and believing is seeing. And just for him to say that, it scores huge brownie points with the woman he's trying to woo and start this relationship and get it off the ground, and with all the female viewers. He scores big brownie points with that. I also saw a picture. This was not in the preview scene that I saw, but I saw a picture of him putting her hair out of her eyes the same way that he did when she first got it cut in the first episode. So those two things make it very promising. I do want them to talk more. I do want them to, get to a healthier place emotionally in their relationship, but we are on the way. And that's good. That's good for me. We're there. I just don't want it to stop there.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Last thing about that scene, question about.
We're not going to quote the whole speech?
No, I'm not. What do you think of their choice of wardrobe for this scene? Elizabeth is wearing the same blouse as when Jack proposed.
Oh my gosh, you're right. But it's also the same blouse as when she turned him down.
Oh. Interesting.
I am ashamed of myself that I did not remember that was the same blouse because heaven knows I picked that scene apart many times.
Right. Oh, I love that they do reuse costume pieces because that is extremely realistic that a person
Very.
would be wearing the same clothing. They're not just going
Yeah.
to throw it out. But yeah, it just seemed really meaningful.
Yes. It seemed very meaningful. So when Nathan does propose, I hope that it's different clothes. It's a Nathan outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want her to be wearing the same clothes that Lucas proposed to her in. Please no.
No, you know what so I had this imagining, and I'll keep this real short, but I did have this imagining of them not at a proposal, but like just having casual conversation as they're moving through their relationship and getting to know each other more and everything. And he, wasn't around way back when, and it would be good to have conversations about things that happened in your past relationship. I loved that when she was with Lucas, there were conversations about Jack,
Yeah.
and he was very open to that. And he's like, he was a part of your life. He's little Jack's father. He's totally comfortable with that. So I would like
Yeah.
to see some of that happening with
They
Nathan as
talked
well.
they talked a lot about Jack, Nathan and Elizabeth. They talked a lot more about Jack.
Right. But
Because
in the context of a relationship,
no,
it
and
would be very
yes.
different. And it would be interesting to see, maybe the subject come up of how Jack proposed or something and have him be like, mental note, okay, do something different, something along those lines. And it would be hilarious if he made a comment about how she'd been proposed to twice and she kind of went, well, I only said yes twice and referenced Charles.
Oh man, that would be so funny. Like, actually, it's three.
Yeah. How many times have you been proposed to? No pressure. But as they're, maybe talking about marriage someday or something, like that could just be a really funny
Yeah,
conversation. Like, okay, so don't put a bunch of candles outside the church. Okay. Uh,
the rocks.
no rocks. Don't just walk in while you're grading and do it in the church. Okay. So that could be funny.
That would be funny.
Don't ask her to take a
Okay.
walk.
No, no, take a walk. I've already said I think it would be awesome if they did, but you were gonna.
I would actually love that to happen, but I could actually really see him just in casual conversation, not for big moment, but just in casual conversation, saying
Yeah.
something like "take a walk with me" and having her get like have a look on her face and be like, what's wrong? And just her being like, I'm sorry, I had a flashbacks. Jack used to say that all the time or something, and so like a way of him like getting that information without it really being like making it uncomfortable, but just being
Yeah.
like, oh wow, yeah, that's, and then he would know not to do that again.
Yes, he would. This is where I'm going to put my final of Rosemary's frustrations.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's right.
She is going to be very frustrated that she did not witness this happening. If she knew about the kiss, she would be frustrated she didn't see it.
I mean, likely, yeah.
But she's going to love that it happened.
Yeah.
That's actually, if we're going to talk about predictions now.
Of course. I mean, she is Rosemary. I think we'll have hopefully a really cute best friend scene towards the beginning of the episode of like,
that would be that would fill every girl's heart who's watching. Okay, so I've gone into my hopes and wishes for the last episode and season 12. So what you got?
well, I mean, I'm sure there's lots. Um, I do know that we have a special visitor for the next episode. Have you seen clips of that? We have Fiona coming back for Mike and May's wedding.
I'm so happy that her schedule worked for her to come and film this last episode because it would have been
a close friend with both of them.
Yeah.
So It is perfect.
It would have been okay, but I'm so glad that she's coming back for the wedding.
So that's really exciting. I have heard that there is like a name attached to Bo, so that means that we will get to meet Bo. I haven't seen any pictures yet.
Well, we better.
There was,
I mean, the wedding is happening, so.
so there's that, and then we have heard that there is going to be an appearance in the episode from Superintendent Hargraves.
Oh boy.
So
Do you think he's tied to the cliffhanger that's going to end the season?
that would be my guess, because there isn't anything in the previews about him. There isn't anything in the description that would really allude to him.
But you
So,
cheated and you know that he's appearing. So.
but the actor's name is listed, so we are gonna see him. So that certainly makes it seem like it would be something potentially tied to that. So that could have something to do with Fort Clay. That could have something to do with new orders for Nathan.
Do you think that they would bring back Fort Clay now? I mean,
potentially, because that was the reason Hargraves didn't like him.
Well, it wasn't Fort Clay. It was
the situation that led up to the Fort Clay
the fact that
situation.
he went alone. He broke protocol and he went alone and captured all of those bandits.
Right, but I just mean,
can we say that he captured all those bandits single-handedly? Can we just say that?
Yeah.
You know.
So I mean, there could be more information about that situation. There could be more information about that situation coming to light. There could be it could be something related to that for sure. And it
could be new orders. That's what I was thinking, is new orders.
So we will see if it has something to do with that. I mean, they certainly have alluded to the fact that it something Elizabeth can get like over or past. Yeah. So it definitely seems like it would be information and not just, oh, he's got to go somewhere. Like, yes, that would be hard for her given the history with Jack, but I don't know that I would question that too much, whereas some sort of information would be different.
Yeah. So here's my one thought, and yes, it is a threat. If Hargraves interrupts that wedding, I am gonna that is going to make me very angry.
That's fair.
He better not.
But on another subject, in the description of the final episode, it does allude, now we've had a lot of changes. We were going to merge towns. We were going to build a big resort. We were going to do all these things. And now all of that's off the table.
Yeah, the merger's over.
Merger's over. But Lucas needs to build up trust. Lucas needs to do something. He's made a lot of promises. There's still a lot of people without jobs. In the description, it says that Lee and Rosemary pitch an idea to Lucas for the betterment of the town or something along those lines.
Okay.
Might we finally see a theater? just popped into my brain. What else would Lee and Rosemary propose doing that might offer jobs, offer
culture
opportunities? It could mean many, many things.
Yeah. Don't forget culture.
That's where my brain went.
I had not read that, so you telling me that got me very excited.
So they certainly didn't say anything about theater, just where my brain went, you know. I mean, instead of a resort, we've got, you know, something else that might draw people to town.
A dinner theater.
It could be an expansion. It could be a second location of the Queen of Hearts. It could be, you know, this is our performing arts center and here's our hotel.
Lots of ideas.
Never know. We'll know soon.
We won't
never know, but actually know quite soon, but you know.
Soon is relative though. All right, Hearties. Well, we hope that we've given you enough to wrap your mind around.
Well, it's just like our longest podcast ever. So it
No,
should.
it's not. No, it's not. But
Well, it took us the longest to record than ever.
yeah, there we go. Yeah. But this was so much fun, and it makes us happy to talk to all of you. I want to take a second to just say thank you to all of you. You've been listening so almost religiously. It's been so sweet, and the views keep popping up and they keep going up, and which means that you've been consistently coming back and bringing new people with you, and we appreciate that so much. And so get me while I'm sentimental. Which is not hard, but I'm especially sentimental right now. So thank you so much to all of you. We love talking about all these things, and we love talking about romance, and we love talking about When Calls the Heart. So you have yourselves a wonderful day wherever you are in your day, morning, afternoon, or evening. And we hope that because you've shown us so much love, we hope that you feel that in return. So we will see you next time for the season finale. Bye.
We're almost there. Bye, Hearties.